Howdy everyone, welcome on board. Thanks for choosing the tour History of the USA at our Brookline Museum. As you probably know, the United States of America has gained significant influence over numerous fields. And with the first field, education, me, Bảo Trân, will be your guide. Fasten your belt as we will fly to the first destination right away. Harvard University was founded in Massachusetts in 1636. This oldest institution of higher education in the United States is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. In 2021, Harvard was voted as the best university in the US and the third in worldwide reputation according to the QS World University Rankings. The school was initially founded at New College, and then it was called Harvard University in 1782, named after the school's first benefactor, John Harvard. Today, Harvard University consists of, first, the undergraduate Harvard College, which offers a 4-year undergraduate program for students seeking their first degree. Second, 12 graduate and professional schools, which offer programs for students who already hold their first degrees and seek advanced training in the fields through master's or doctoral programs. The last is the Harvard Radcliffe Institute. Despite of the reputation, in 2019, Harvard University was accused of discriminating in admission. It argues that the school considers race too much, forcing Asian Americans to meet a higher bar to get in. Moreover, there were testimony about this list of students who were earmarked for special consideration because of their wealth and connections, about how the children of alumni and faculty received large references. However, later in November 2020, the appeals court cleared Harvard of racial bias when choosing their students. Now let's take a look at Harvard placement students. 8 residents of the United States have graduated from Harvard University. You are looking at the picture of John Adams, the second resident, and he is George Bush, his successor, President Barack Obama. Here are the successful dropouts of Harvard: Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook before dropping out of Harvard to pursue the website full-time, and the Microsoft creator Bill Gates. Despite having dropped out of college and becoming a billionaire, he advised the young generations that getting a college degree is a much surer path to success. Now, goodbye Massachusetts, we go to New York, where the dominance of Disney started, representing the field of entertainment. Disney Company was founded by Walt Disney. It was all started by a mouse. Yes, indeed. Can you guess which mouse I am referring to? Absolutely, Mickey Mouse. In 1928, Mickey Mouse made his first debut in Steamboat Willie in New York City. It was the first animated cartoon with complete soundtrack of music, dialogue, and sound effects. At that time, Disney was probably not aware of what a great empire he started with Mickey Mouse. Disney and his famous mouse created a magical world. Although Disney Company is best known for films, since 1980s, Disney had created and acquired corporate divisions in a number of other markets. In addition to the Disney Channel and Disney Junior Cable Television Network, broadcasting interests were expanded to include the ABC Network and Radio Disney. Disney also entered the crowded streaming market with some subscription video services, namely Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, which makes Disney becoming the biggest streaming rival to Netflix. Up to date, Disney Company is one of the world's largest entertainment conglomerates. It's getting bigger and expanding the empire. Disney purchased Pixar, Marvel Entertainment, Lucasfilm, Film Studio 20th Century Fox. Disney dream of a utopia world was manufactured in Disneyland. Today there are 6 Disneylands around the world. The first was opened in California in 1955. Today we can also visit Disney parks in Florida, Paris, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. And that is the end of the field entertainment. Move to the next field where my dear friend Langvi will be with you.
Hi, I'm Langvi, and let's fly to the next event, which happened in 1945, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The reason of it, we have all acknowledged. On 6th of August in 1945, the Enola Gay of the US dropped the first atomic bomb, the little boy, on Hiroshima. Within the next 3 days, the second one, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. The two atomic bombings have resulted in at least 150,000 to 246,000 deaths, which mostly are citizens. It has later led to the severe health problem for survivors and their children. But why did the US have to make their move towards Japan? Consider the current circumstance. Hitler had committed suicide, which led to Germany to surrender, and the war in Europe officially ended. However, the Japanese refused to surrender. Is that enough to be a reason? Take a further look into it, and we can reminisce about the surprise attack of Japan on the Pearl Harbor in Hawaii back in the 1941. It didn't disable the US Navy, but immediately became a formal declaration of war, and also the bomb would be a significant display of power from the US to the world. More about this miserable event. The bomb blast in Hiroshima was so intense that it permanently burned the shadow of people and objects into the ground. These became known as Hiroshima shadows. Furthermore, the oleander is chosen to be the official flower of Hiroshima, since it was the first plant to blossom again after the atomic bomb blast. Last but not least, the ex-US President Barack Obama was the first American president to visit Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park on May 27th in 2016. At the memorial, there is a flame of peace which has burned continuously since it was lit in 1964 until all nuclear bombs on the planet are destroyed and the planet is free from the threat of nuclear destruction again. That's it for my part. Now we move to Thảo Quỳnh.
Hi, I'm Thảo Quỳnh, your next guy. We're still here in Washington, D.C., where the headquarters of NASA takes place, and our group has had an opportunity to interview the first female African American to work at NASA engineer. Please welcome Mary Jackson.
Hi, I'm Mary Winston Jackson, the first female African American engineer of NASA. I have spent my whole life to overcome the barriers of segregation and gender bias. I work in a number of NASA divisions. In 1979, I even accepted a demotion to join the Lend-Lease Federal Women Program, where I work hard to address the equal right and promotion for the next female generation. If you want to learn more about my works, you can read the book Hidden Features: The American Dream and the Untold Story of the Black Women Mathematicians Who Helped with the Space Race. It was written by Margaret Lee Shetterly and published in 2016. Also later in that year, the book has been turned into a film, Hidden Features, as well. You can enjoy it. The film has been nominated for Oscar. In 2019, President Donald Trump has signed the Hidden Feature Congressional Gold Medal Act to award the honor to me and my colleague. Moreover, in 2021, the NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. has been renamed after me. The Mary Jackson headquarters. NASA has also held a ceremony for this. That's a little about me.
Thanks, Miss Mary, for joining us. Next on our journey, we will continue in Washington, D.C. to learn about a period of the U.S. history in which Vietnam plays a vital part, the protests of Vietnam's war in the U.S., which occurred in around the 1960s to 1970s. First of all, most of the anti-war activities were driven by the political left, often emanating from college campuses, the Student for a Democratic Society (SDS). Although the core of the protests took place in the United States, large protests also happened in Canada, the United Kingdom, France, West Germany, and Australia, which has sent a limited number of troops to Vietnam in support of the Americans. According to a number of polls taken in 1967, the American support for the war has fallen below 50% for the first time in history. Next, the November 15, 1969 was the date of the largest anti-war demonstration in America. More than 500,000 people arrived in Washington, D.C. to protest the war, and several smaller protests were held on that day across the country. Many Vietnam War veterans joined the protest movement by the late 1960s. According to a survey by the Veteran Administration, 500,000 of the 3 million troops who served in Vietnam suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and the rates of divorce, suicide, alcoholism, drug addiction was markedly higher among veterans. But why? Why did a part of Americans do all of that? It is because by 1967, the number of American troops in Vietnam was approaching 500,000, and U.S. casualties had reached more than 50,000 killed and more than 100 wounded. As the war dragged on, some soldiers came to mistrust the government reason for keeping them there, as well as Washington's repeated claims that the war was being won. Moreover, the Johnson administration announced that it would ask for a 10% increase in taxes to fund the war, resulted in the public skepticism increase. And that's just the end of my part. Please welcome our next guy, Phương Khanh.
Welcome. I am Phương Khanh, and I'll talk about human and assassinations in America. The 1960s have seen the death of two great men of America. The first one is John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, and another is Martin Luther King, a leader in the protest against discriminations. As my friend Quinn mentioned Vietnam War, do you know that either Kennedy and Martin were involved in the time of the Vietnam War? Kennedy was the president at that time while King participated in the protest. Now I will talk about the 35th president's assassination. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. while riding in a motorcade in Dallas during campaign visit. He is the youngest U.S. president and the first Roman Catholic. And his famous quote is, "Ask not what country do for you, ask yourself what you have done for your country," which was similar to our well-known saying in Vietnamese. Kennedy has always fought for the Civil Rights Act, which banned discrimination in the workforce and public accommodations based on race, color, religions, or national origins, but he was assassinated before the act was introduced. After his death, the next president and the government honor him by passing the act. We can know this from the speech of President Lyndon Johnson. The greatest leader of our time has been struck down by the foulest deed of our time. Today, John Fitzgerald Kennedy lives on in the immortal works and works that he left behind. He lives on in the mind and memories of mankind. He lives on in the hearts of his countrymen. That is about President Kennedy. Now we move to Martin Luther King.
Breaking news. Today, the 4th of April 1968, Martin Luther King, the leader of a civil rights movement, has been assassinated. The assassinator has been caught immediately after committing the crime. Witnesses at the scene said that King was greeting his listeners when this woman came and asked him, "Are you Martin Luther King?" then stabbed him in the chest. The killer admitted that she has been following King for 5 years in order to kill him. In his life, King has devoted himself to fighting against racial discriminations and inequality. King was largely responsible for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act protects African Americans' rights to vote, and he also played an important role in the passage of the Fair Housing of 1964. This prevented people from banning black people from any source of housing, be it a rental or a sale. His famous saying is, "I have a dream." After King's death, he became the great man that many other governors chose to follow. For example, the future South African president Nelson Mandela has chose his non-violent techniques after his death. People chose the third Monday of January to become the day of Martin Luther King to honor and memorize his work against discriminations and racial inequality. We're all deeply sorry for this great loss of America. Rest in peace, Martin Luther King. Let's move to the next news.
Let's move to our next destinations about technology and social media. America has always been famous for modern technology. Talking about modern technology, we have to mention Elon Musk, co-founder of PayPal, aerospace transportation services company SpaceX, and the CEO of the worldwide popular electric car, Tesla. And he is also one of the world's 10 millionaires. About the famous electric car, Tesla has passed the safety test of Insurance Institute for Highway Safety to become the safest electric car. Not only the safest, but also the fastest electric car. We all know that to American citizens, dog and cats and other pets are family members. Many news stories have raised people's awareness of leaving pets in the car under the hot weather. Therefore, Tesla has come up with dedicated dog mode, which can automatically change the temperature in the car when the owners went away. In the 2000s, Elon Musk also made a mark in his career, since in 2020, SpaceX made history on May 30 after it flew NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken to space aboard its Crew Dragon spacecraft using a Falcon 9 rocket. America is also displays of many geniuses who created many social media platforms that we are using today. For example, Facebook by Mark Zuckerberg, YouTube, Instagram, Google, etc. However, there's one of social media which is the most famous in America, is Twitter. Twitter is an American microblogging and social networking service on which users post and interact with messages known as tweets. We usually think that social media is only for teenagers and with the purpose for entertainment. However, works leaders are using Twitter too. Research showed that 33% of the world's leaders are on Twitter, even the Pope. Meanwhile, Barack Obama has the most followers. And we all know that in the latest American presidential election, Donald Trump was blocked by the tweeters after his controversial post. And last but not least, Twitter is so famous among Americans that according to research, there are 500 million tweets sent each day. That equal to 6,000 tweets every second. And that's the end of our knowledge trip about special events in America. I hope you enjoy the information and the news. Thank you for choosing our tour agency.